Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets their glare.
Hi there. Welcome to Freedom Fighter Net. I'm Don Klein. This is the first episode in a series that I think it's about time I get involved with what's going on in my country. We are being invaded, and I don't mean by illegals. So we're being invaded by illegals too, which is part of the overall problem. We're being invaded by liberals. Now, a lot of people have different definitions of liberals. A lot of liberals just figure that they're looking forward to the future, they're willing to accept whatever comes, they're not critical, they believe in fairness, and they're not bigoted, or at least I don't think they are, and things like that. But there's a lot more to it than that. I'm not just talking about liberals of that type. In many cases, liberals of that type, and even the stronger liberals who actually go to liberal meetings and try to figure out things for liberals and so on, they are what Vladimir Lenin described as useful idiots. He didn't have any more respect for his followers than I do. And the trouble is, he was manipulating them. I'm not. I'm trying to wise them up, if you will. I'm trying to wake them up. And in fact, I'd like to have a conversation with them. I've been trying to have a conversation with liberals for the last 35 years about their dogma, their attitudes, their belief in what our country should be, things like that. I've had two successes. I've had two major conversations, extensive discussions about the liberal point of view, the Marxist point of view, my point of view, which is not particularly conservative, in the sense that liberals think of it as being conservative. I'm a constitutionalist. And for the most part, what I found out is that they don't believe in the Constitution. They believe the Constitution is being used as a weapon against them. As a matter of fact, the Constitution doesn't require anything of the citizens other than a couple of things like prohibiting counterfeiting and things like that. It doesn't require anything of the citizens. What it requires is of government. It requires government to obey the rule of law. And government is not obeying the rule of law, and the liberals are standing on the sidelines cheering. And it's time we do something about that. I want to read something to you here. This may or may not sound familiar to you, but let me read it to you. We are fast verging to anarchy and confusion. By a letter I have received from General Knox, who had just returned from Massachusetts, whither he had been sent by Congress, consequent of the commotions in that state, is replete with melancholy accounts of the temper and designs of a considerable part of that people. Among other things, he says, quote, "Their creed is that the property of the United States has been protected from the confiscation of Britain by the joint exertions of all, and therefore they ought to be the common property of all. And he that attempts opposition to this creed is an enemy to equity and justice, and ought to be swept off from the face of the earth." Does any of that sound familiar? Almost sounds like it comes from liberals, doesn't it? Again, they are determined to annihilate all debts, public and private, and have agrarian laws, which are easily affected by the means of unfunded paper money, which shall be a tender in all cases whatever. He adds, the number of these people amount in Massachusetts to about 1/5 part of several populous counties. And New Hampshire, And to them may be collected people of similar sentiments from the states of Rhode Island, Connecticut, and New Hampshire, so as to constitute a body of about 12 or 15,000 desperate and unprincipled men. They are chiefly of the young and active part of the community." End quote. Young and active part of the community, desperate and unprincipled men. I think that, men and women today, I think that describes the average liberal mentality to a T. And I'm hoping liberals are watching this, because I want you to contact me. I've been trying, like I said, for some 35 years to stand toe-to-toe with a Marxist, a liberal, and have them support their point of view. Present me with facts and attitudes and predicted consequences and things like that, which support their political ideology. And I haven't found any of them that'll do so yet. All they do is scream insults and slam the door on their way out. So I think this is something that definitely, they're always talking about a rational conversation. They've never had a rational conversation with me yet. That was a letter written, what I just quoted to you was a letter written by George Washington to James Madison on November 5th, 1786, 10 months before the United States Constitution was put out to the states for ratification. Today, after 113 years of more liberty and prosperity than was seen by mankind in the previous 25 centuries, and another 114 years of increasing private and public debt brought on by the unfunded paper money and the subversion of the institutions the U.S. Constitution established to protect the liberty and prosperity, we can once again say with feeling we are fast verging to anarchy and confusion. I'll tell you seriously, I'm not positive that this video is going to see YouTube before all hell hits the fan. Believe me, things are getting that desperate. The people in charge are that desperate to bring this country to a halt. Why? Why are we verging to anarchy and confusion? Well, you probably, if you're a liberal, you probably think it's all the Republicans' fault. That Obama would solve everything if we just let him do it. Yeah, he would. He's doing his level best to destroy this country, and he said so. He's made it quite clear. Well, anyway, the answer as to why is quite obvious, but only if you have some knowledge of history or who did what to whom, who got paid, who got buried. If you want to read through my website, you could probably get a pretty good handle on that. That's www.frdmftr.net. It's at the beginning and end of this video. The short answer is that we've been infiltrated and subverted in an organized, orchestrated, concerted operation lasting many decades. Now actually, believe it or not, there's evidence, strong, it's not just circumstantial evidence, it's factual evidence, that we were infiltrated prior to the Civil War. That's why we had a civil war, is because the South was infiltrated by British agents with the intention of destabilizing their colonies, because they wanted their colonies back. You got to realize who we were fighting. We weren't fighting Great Britain per se. We were fighting the House of Lords, and the House of Lords was infested by bankers from the City of London who had been running the world economy for 500 years. They wanted their colonies back. They still want their colonies back. And they're all prepared. They're all excited about the possibility of 238 years worth of payback that they're going to extract from us if they gain their prize that they want to gain. If you want to skip ahead and know immediately how to correct this sorry state of affairs, that answer is pretty simple. The principles embodied in the United States Constitution ordained on September 17, 1787, and the subsequent amendments thereto, principally the first 10, known as the Bill of Rights, saved our nation of liberty under the rule of law then, and will do so again today. All we have to do is to require they be recognized, these principles of the Constitution, be recognized as the supreme law of the land and honored, respected, and obeyed by our employees in government. They are our employees, they're not our masters. As the United States Constitution requires. It does require. And it requires every bill that makes its way through Congress, the House of Representatives and the United States Senate and the White House too, when it finally gets signed there. Every bill must be pursuant to that U.S. Constitution, every one of them. Every time, no exceptions, no excuses. It's got to be pursuant to the Constitution. What does it take for it to be pursuant to the Constitution? Here's the answer, and here is the answer to all of our problems. It takes the delegated authority for that bill to be delegated to the federal government from the consent of the governed, which is us. It has to be delegated by the consent of the governed, and the consent of the governed is conveyed by the United States Constitution. If it is not conveyed to government, government does not have the authority, period. No way, shape, or form. And to the extent that government, the federal government, or the state government, when it acts in a way that's prohibited by the U.S. Constitution, everything that it does is illegal, null and void. It's an abdication of their lawful authority to govern, and it devolves the United States government into a rogue occupation government with no authority whatsoever over the people or the institutions of our government. That's the bottom line right there. We've got to recognize that. If we'll recognize that fact, there isn't a single problem that's facing our nation today, internationally, nationally, interstate, within the country, anywhere. If we will accept that fact, every problem there is can be solved easily, ethically, properly, fairly quickly, by comparison, with a minimum of damage, a minimum of fuss and fuming, and a minimum of pain, to tell you the truth. There isn't a single problem that can't be solved by simply adopting the United States Constitution as the fundamental supreme law of the land, which it is, which it says it is, which we declared it is. We the people declared it is. It will require solving these problems, will require, however, kicking the Marxist mafia infesting our federal and many state governments out with extreme prejudice, i.e. permanently and with no recourse during the life of the offender to be reaccessing government office, or what's called office of public authority or profit under the United States. A liberal is no friend of liberty. A knowing Marxist is no friend of a liberal. Like Vladimir Lenin regards liberals as useful idiots. They're not your friends. You're nothing but cannon fodder. Here's a warning of what to expect if the present circumstances are allowed to continue. Vladimir Lenin is quoted by Saul Alinsky as having said, quote, "They have the guns, and therefore we are for peace and reformation through the ballot. When we have the guns, it will be by the bullet." That's what you can expect. Absolute crushing totalitarianism if those bastards ever acquire full control over the United States. Now there's one thing really in our favor. One thing really that stands out from the United States. Well, there's a number of things that stands out from the United States compared to other countries. People talk about America being exceptional. It is. It is the first government in 25 centuries that set the individual citizen above arbitrary rule by government. Government is allowed to do certain things and nothing else. Period. And it's been violating that rule for many, many, many years, decades even. We've got to put a stop to that. This is Freedom Fighter number 1. There will be more. I hope the rest of them will be taken outside in decent weather, good sunshine, a bright, shiny, high definition quality. But this one kind of boring looking at my mug here, I realize that. But I hope you listen. Tell your liberal friends about it. Please send me an email. Let me know what you think, and I will discuss it with you. I am happy as a clam to talk about these things with liberals. And remember, I'm likely to hear from a bunch of people who call themselves conservatives, especially politicians, who are neocons, neoconservatives. Here's a newsflash. A neocon is nothing but a Republican in name only, a rhino, who votes more with the leftists than he does in favor of the Constitution. He's nothing. He's rebranded himself with the name neocon. But you know what? If it smells like a duck, if it ruffles its feathers like a duck, if it waddles like a duck, it's probably a duck. And there's a whole lot of swans out here who know he's not a swan. So, get back to me. Let's have an email and let's get into it. Discuss it a little bit. Tell me what justification there is for you, a liberal. If you're a liberal, I mean, if you're not a liberal, then I'm not talking to you. Oh, you can listen though. If you're a liberal, tell me by what justification are you attempting to destroy the first free nation on the face of this planet and tear it up and turn it into another Soviet Union? Tell me that. And I'll see you next time. There'll be more of these video clips on the subject of politics and what's going on in our country. Have a good day. See you later.